want to cover another big story in the Russia investigation. Federal prosecutors are now saying that Russian hackers altered information that was obtained from Bob Mueller's own case documents. Stay with me. I know it's confusing. And they tried to put it to use as part of a disinformation campaign against the investigation. NBC News investigative reporter Tom Winter is back. We haven't seen him. Tom, congratulations. He just got married. Help me understand the story because I don't get it. How did these hackers get this information, and what were they trying to do with it?
So basically what happens is, and this happens in every single time somebody is indicted and a case goes forward to trial or is going to go forward to trial, and that is that if you're indicted, you're entitled to see the evidence that the government has. And so the government turns over that evidence, and that's a part of a process called discovery. And in this particular case, what would happen was that Robert Mueller's team turned over certain parts of evidence that they had against a company called Concord Management. This is a company owned by Yevgeny Prigozhin, whose nickname is Putin's chef. It's one of the companies that was, and one of the entities that was charged as a result of the troll farm and all of the efforts that were put into play to interfere in the 2016 election. And so basically, Stephanie, the government says, okay, here's some of the evidence that we have, and they have to turn it over to the U.S. company Concord Management for those defense attorneys to review. What Robert Mueller's team says is that in October of last year, some of that information popped up on a Twitter account and on an online file sharing account that was registered by an individual or an entity with an IP address belonging to Russia. So they had serious concerns about this because some of the files they were uniquely able to identify as belonging to their evidence. And so now that they have evidence that they know that they've shared with this Concord Management, this Russian, ultimately owned by a Russian individual and ultimately a Russian company, all of a sudden they see it pop up online. And the reason why they say it was disinformation, Stephanie, is because only a limited amount of the information was put out, and essentially this Twitter account made it seem like, well, this is all that Robert Mueller has against these troll farms and against the Russian government and against the Russians, period. And obviously they have a lot more information. That's the reason why we know about this in the first place, because Robert Mueller's team has been arguing over the past several weeks and months saying, hey, we've turned over some of the information, but we don't want to turn over the really sensitive stuff, essentially the manner and the means as to how we know that this evidence exists and how we know that the Russians did it. And they used this yesterday as an example in this court filing to say, look, we turned over the most basic stuff. It's stuff, Stephanie, that you and I have talked about on air. It's the memes, it's the Facebook posts, it's those type of things. So this is not exactly the real sensitive goods, so to speak. And they say, look, if they're already sharing this stuff, what's going to happen when we turn over the really sensitive material? So that's why we know about this fight and about this issue in the first place.
My God, can you imagine what it's like inside Robert Mueller's head? Is there any evidence that the hackers were successful in what they were trying to do here?
It doesn't appear so. So this Twitter account has already been suspended. The file sharing has already been suspended. And basically, I mean, the fact that this came out in October, and this is the first time that we're really hearing about it publicly, and this is the first time that we're speaking about it, and the fact that they were able to identify this as really information we've already seen, it doesn't seem to have made any sort of impact at this point, and it is not something that seems to have gone viral, so to speak, Stephanie. So it doesn't appear that this had an immediate effect, because it certainly appears that the FBI and Mueller's team were able to kind of shut this down pretty quickly.
Twitter, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. I want to bring my panel back. Jessica, what are Mueller's options here? Does he have the option not to reveal this kind of information to the people who are being indicted?
Well, so the reason this all came to light yesterday was because Mueller had made a filing in which he was seeking to have the court deny an application by the defense attorneys to be able to share the sensitive material more widely than the court had previously authorized. The court granted a protective order for the discovery material that was deemed
for this
sensitive.
Specific reason, because he's saying we're getting hacked, we got to keep it locked down?
Well, the concern was about it being disseminated widely, including to people in Russia who would not be subject to the court's jurisdiction, for example, for contempt if they used it inappropriately. So the defense has access to the material, but the protective order condition is that people can only look at that material in the offices of the law firm, the defense lawyers. So they have to look at it in hard copy form in the defense lawyers' offices. It can't be disseminated electronically. And this way, the lawyers are supposed to be able to keep control of the information so it can't just get out into general circulation. And so Mueller already has that protective order. He's just trying to prevent the judge judge from loosening the order.
Wow. Michael, we know that there's one thing Robert Mueller's team is, and it's tight. Nothing gets out of that office. If that altered information had gotten out, would that mean Mueller would then have to make a public statement to help people understand what's true and what isn't? Because I can't imagine he wants to do that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do that, and I doubt he would. I think in that instance, he may probably put out some make some innocuous point about the information, because his concern would be disclosing more information by commenting on that than he otherwise needs to. So I think with Mueller, as we just recently saw when the office put out statements in the last month, that they keep it very narrowly defined. They keep it closed-lipped as much as possible. Even when there's something that is outrageous, they're very measured in their response. And I think in this instance, he would have been the same way. Congressman,
this specific information was classified as non-sensitive. Mm-hmm. But Mueller's team is saying this is a national security risk. Does what happened prove that it is a national security risk? Because had it been different information, it would be a much different story.
I think it is. I think it also demonstrates the hideous nature of the attack on our country right now to undermine our faith in our judicial system. And I think that's what's really at the crux here. This is not a new game. The Russians have been at this for forever, quite frankly.
But cyber warfare.
But the use of cyber, use of technology, much of the technology that we created, helped create, is now being used against us to undermine our faith in our judicial system. And that, to me, is even more important than maybe this particular issue itself, or the nature of what was actually disclosed, or how it was disclosed, and how it's being used to attack us as a country, as a nation. And then to also juxtapose our president and his response, and looking at these things and meeting with the Russian ambassador, laughing about firing of Comey and all those other things that were going on. And it really makes the American people wonder what is going on.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.